Got to ask about COVID-19, because this day and age, that's just silly not to bring that up. Like, what's the thing we're all thinking about?
Yeah.
So anytime we talk about it, I always mention we are recording this July 9th. Anything that happens beyond July 9th when this airs, we're not talking about it because we don't know what's happened yet. But how has quarantine impacted your writing life, and how do you foresee that impacting your book launch coming up, and how are you going to be working around that? Although I realize I'm asking you about September, that might as well be 10 years from now with the way the news moves.
You know, when I made the comment about how my ninth book is first person and how that was a challenge for me. So what I didn't indicate was that quarantine definitely impacted that. My day job switched to remote in March, and so we had to get used to working from home. And granted, what we do is easy to do from home, but still that whole kind of not having that separation from my day job to my home was huge because I was on deadline. And so normally I'd be able to write at lunch or, kind of come home, have dinner with my family, and then, sit down and write for another couple of hours, about 8 o'clock. But by being home all the time, one would think, oh, well, that's cool. Like, you're home all the time. But I had no separation. And I found that my day job just constantly just kept creeping longer each day, making it harder for me to write because I'd just be too tired. So quarantine made it tough to get that book finished. And it was due in May, and I ended up having to ask for an extension because if quarantine wasn't hard enough, when George Floyd was killed, it just really, just the thinking about the humanity of Black people and how we are still trying to fight to be seen as human really messed me up for a couple of weeks, and I just couldn't focus on the book. So it did finally get finished, but I do think that, when we talked earlier about me being able to usually write a tighter book, I think this is probably the first time that it's probably not as tight. And I remember saying to my agent, I said that to my agent, and she said, so it took a pandemic and racial tensions before you were, not able to deliver a book. Who would have thought? So, she's like trying to tell me to show myself some grace, but she's right. But trying to write right now has been hard on all of us, on any of us, but there are other things we want to focus on. So quarantine did impact that, but I don't really worry too much about how it's going to impact Turning Point because there's nothing I can do about it. And, I'm going to continue to do what I've been doing, which is networking with educators because they are the ones who get my books to people for the most part. So it's important to me that I stay in touch with them and that I, understand what challenges they have when it comes to getting books in the hands of their readers. So I'm more focused on that. The book is going to do what it's going to do. So we'll see.
Well, you mentioned it, and I've talked around the edges, but obviously Black Lives Matter is a tremendous movement right now. And in some ways it feels, every time I record a new episode of the show, I think, is this the most effective use of my time right now, talking about books and authors when should be finding a way to support Black Lives Matter and that movement? What are you doing, or what have you been doing to support Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, I've always tried to use my voice to advocate for inclusion, and whether that's inclusion, racial inclusion, or whether that's not forgetting, our 13 to 15-year-olds. So that's just sort of my platform. That's my passion, is to make sure these things happen. the difference since the Black Lives Matter movement has like really been in the forefront the last couple of months has been to make sure that people understand that part of being against racism and being anti and getting rid of anti-Blackness is to make sure that you're exposing yourselves to things other than Black pain. I have used the term Black pain porn before when I'm referring to things like showing the video over and over again of this man being killed, or just, constantly exposing not just Black kids, but all kids to books where the Black people are always constantly struggling. Enough. And so for me, the only thing that's changed in my messaging is to remind people that one of the easiest ways to, to do your part is to do things and expose yourself to remind yourself of Black people's humanity. So I haven't really changed what I do. I've just tried to make people understand that there are ways that they can impact the children that they nurture, with a few very simple changes to what they put in front of those children.
So what are some easy changes that people listening could make?
Well, first is exactly what I said, enough with the Black pain. We've got to look for and amplify images, stories, experiences of Black joy so that people see the whole Black person. When we're talking about trying to make kids in particular more empathetic, you can't do that if you're constantly only showing the Black pain aspect. There's just so much more to it. So, being able to put the right material in front of a diverse amount of material, because the struggle is real. But I just mean making sure that there are, 3 Black books, 3 Black joy books for every 2 books that may be about struggle or social justice. Just mix it up a little bit. And being able to have very real conversations with one another about the unlearning that so many of us are going to have to do moving forward. So I know sometimes it seems like it's difficult, but it's not. And it just kind of starts with that recognition that we want to be recognized for our whole experience. The history books tend to focus on slavery and then civil rights as if nothing happened in between and nothing has happened since. So it's about breaking that mindset, and especially when it involves talking to kids.
So if you've sat down and you've watched Fruitvale Station, good. You've had that experience. Now break out Flavor of Love. A couple of episodes of that. That's some Black excellence on display that will elevate that moment.
I'm not sure if I want to call that Black excellence, but okay.
You know what? Creed 1 and 2. Get yourself the Black Panther just to make it a Ryan Coogler marathon. You'll be fine.